All right, YouTube, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel. It is Saturday, November 9th. We have just 4 NBA games to dive into in today's video. Like we always do, I'm going to go through each and every one of these games. I'll give you my prediction on the side. I'll give you my prediction on the total. We'll talk about any other plays like player props that we like in the game as well. But all of my final plays, what I'm actually rolling with myself, will be on the Guy Boston Sports site, which I'll direct you to the pinned comment to find that. It's still completely free, but check the pinned comment. Head over to the Guy Boston Sports site, and you'll see all the final plays as I put them in on that post. Yesterday was kind of a weird day overall. Like, we ended up going 1-3 from a win-loss perspective, but it looks a lot worse than it is. The only one that we ended up hitting was the full unit play. The rest of them were either half unit or quarter unit plays. Still lose a little bit off the top, but overall, just kind of a weird one. Like, there was multiple plays that I wanted to throw in. Anthony Simons and the Clippers, those cashed, but I didn't end up doing it. I was very close to, but then there was plenty that I was also very close to that loss. So kind of just a weird day in the NBA overall. Unfortunately, our ride of the day also does not come through. Shea had 1 steal in the game last night, and this is a plus 175 play, and 2 trendy cash for us 2 days ago, so we can't be too mad at 2 trendy here, right? Or disappointed, but you know the rules. We got to drop the womp womp. If you guys don't know what the ride of the day is, it is simple. Just use that hashtag ride of the day or ROTD in the comments. Give me your favorite play. I'll be scanning the comments today. Whichever ride of the day comment gets the most likes, we'll be riding with. I'll be posting it on the site as well as on my Twitter/X at EvGuyBoston. Actually popping up right here. So go ahead and get those ride of the days in there. If you don't know what it is, I jump on board with one person's play each and every day. Give you a shout out in the next video, win or loss. If you win, we continue to ride with your play. If you lose, we hop off and we got to drop the womp womp, unfortunately. But let's go ahead and dive into today's slate. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Let's get rocking here. Starting it off with San Antonio taking on Utah. Now, these two teams played already earlier this year. I guess, what was that? That'd be like 10 days ago or so on Halloween. San Antonio wins 106-88, but we do have some injury updates here to note. Devin Vassell is listed as a game time decision, which he's been out so far, right? And then on the other side of things, Larry Markkanen's good to go, but now Keontae George on the injury report as a game time decision. So 2 things to monitor there. Obviously, the Spurs have been operating without Vassell, so I wouldn't necessarily sit there and say, oh my God, things are going to get shaken up and what. No, like him coming back is just going to be a net positive because he's a decent scorer for that team, right? In this spot, though, 6.5 points does seem like it's a heck of a lot, but overall, I can't really sit here and be like, well, Utah's going to compete. Like, the only thing I think Utah truly might do better is play faster than San Antonio, and that doesn't always result in you having an advantage, right? Utah's going to shoot a lot of shots in the paint. San Antonio's been decent so far this year, and when I say decent, best in the league, fewest points per game allowed in the paint, and Utah shoots the ball in the paint at the 4th highest clip in the year on the year so far. So I don't really see an angle for Utah, so I, by default, kind of look at the San Antonio side of things here. In terms of that total, it's at 222.5. If Utah's in the game, I wouldn't be surprised, like if this is a close game, I wouldn't be surprised if Utah does push it. And the Spurs have hit the over on this line in 2 straight games, right? So maybe this is a look at a potential over. Keep an eye on the final plays. I think I'm more willing to look at the Spurs here than I am the total, but that doesn't seem like it's all that high, right, for Utah being in the game. And if it is a game, then I think that this thing will go back and forth because, like I mentioned, Utah may struggle, but San Antonio, I don't really see an angle as to how Utah would stop them from scoring. So if you have the combo of Utah playing fast and San Antonio getting some easy buckets down low or from wherever, then yeah, maybe I take a peek at that over 222. In terms of player props in this spot, we don't have updated lines for these guys because I believe we're still waiting on the Keontae George news, but I wouldn't hate the idea of targeting 2 guys that like to shoot in the paint for the Utah Jazz, Sexton as well as Collins. Maybe taking a peek at their under depending on where those lines come out. I don't think the lines will be all that crazily high, right? Especially with Collins off the bench and then Sexton being, they're just leading field goal attempts. So maybe we stay away from it, but that's where I would look because that's going to be the strength of the Spurs today in terms of this game overall. But then from the player prop perspective, the thing that the like I mentioned, the Jazz like to do, get to the paint, score in the paint. The Spurs should, with Wemby down there, should make it a little bit more difficult. So why not target unders for the guys that lead the charge down in the paint for the Jazz? That's kind of what I'm thinking. Oh, and by the way, guys, our NFL video for this weekend, our Sunday slate drops today at 1 p.m. right here on this channel, so make sure to go check that out. We are on yes, you're reading that correctly, a 12-0 run in the NFL, which is just absurd. No chance we keep that going, but hey, we can at least try and keep being pretty good, right? Because that's a damn good head start. So go ahead and check that video out at 1 p.m. today when it does drop. Let's jump back into these games here. All right, next game, we have Cleveland taking on Brooklyn here. Cleveland 13-point favorites at home. That total at 224. Both these teams are on back-to-backs here. Brooklyn played Boston last night, and Cleveland went up against Golden State. Now, Cleveland's still at home. Brooklyn was in Boston, now going to be in Cleveland there, so maybe that's something to be taken into consideration. 13 points is kind of out of my wheelhouse anyways. Like, that's a little bit too much. I do think Cleveland probably wins this game. They're so good. They're 10-0, 9-1 against the spread, obviously undefeated at home as well, being undefeated on the season. Brooklyn, though, is a very good against the spread team. 7-2 so far this year. Now, they haven't been all that great just straight up on the road. They're 1-3, but like I just mentioned, you know, in terms of against the spread, they've been very, very good. I believe their 2 against spread losses did come on the road, if I'm not mistaken. I could have that wrong. At least one of them did. I know that was in Atlanta, right? Or in Orlando. But overall, I do think that, you know, if we have to look at the points, it's probably, I guess, a Brooklyn-sided thing for me. But Cleveland's so much better than them. And obviously, yeah, at some point, they'll lose a game. They're not going to go 82-0. But 13 is just, like I said, a little out of my wheelhouse to even consider. So I guess by default, I'm looking at Brooklyn plus the points. In terms of the total, it's actually, I've seen 223s out there, so this thing is moving around, and I don't mind the idea of under, especially if you can still snag it at 224. You do have Brooklyn, who's playing at the second slowest pace to start the year. Cleveland is the 9th fastest team, but I don't really sit here and say that this is a bad Brooklyn defense, which is kind of crazy, because I don't know if I would have guessed that they'd be a decent defense, you know what I mean, especially given their starters and whatnot, but 14th in terms of defensive efficiency on the road this year, 7th, last 3 games, 8th in terms of ranking, and Cleveland, we should know, is a very good defense. We've talked about it. So if both these two teams have tired legs, there may not be that Cleveland sort of up the tempo-ness, right? So I like the under in this spot as well. A few player props here that I'm considering, and they're kind of sketchy because they're both plus money plays, right? But I don't mind looking at Donovan Mitchell's under in his 3-pointers made. You can see Brooklyn pretty good against stopping the 3 in terms of the guard, and the point guard being the better one. Still top 11 in the league in terms of shooting guard. But yeah, point guard I mentioned, right? I also don't mind Darius Garland under in his 3-pointers made. Now, obviously, this is going to be a tough look because he's been crushing this line here. But head-to-head, he's in his last 3 games against them, only 1 he's gone over and did hit 3. But that means he even just 1 on the hook, right? So for plus 135 here, you can get plus 135 over on 365. I don't mind the look. Same thing with Donovan Mitchell, like plus 132 over on FanDuel. Is it crazy to you know, look at these two guys and take unders? Perhaps, because obviously they're going to get the volume and they're going to have the attempts, but this has been a pretty damn good Brooklyn team on the perimeter, so something to consider there. But again, 4-game slate. Every matchup that we have today, like, we don't want to force anything. We don't want to do too much because it's only 4 games. You don't want to try and make up for last night or anything like that, right? All right, guys, for tonight's game, Sleeper is offering a James Harden 0.5 point square, as well as their largest deposit match ever, $1,500. Go ahead and check it out, guys. That link will be on the Guy Boss Sports site with the final plays, as well as the pinned comment. I'll throw it in there as well. But again, James Harden, 0.5 points. There's a freebie for you, right? 99% off. His normal line is 22.5. Well, we're getting it for just 1. He can make 1 foul shot, and this bad boy hits for us. And then also that $1,500 deposit match is absolutely crazy. Go ahead and check out Sleeper, guys. Again, that link will be on the Guy Boston Sports site with these graphics and the final plays, as well as in the pinned comment and description for your ease and convenience. So go ahead and check out Sleeper, one of my favorite apps out there when talking about player projections and whatnot. Really, really cool, guys. Go ahead and check it out. Just pick more or less on set projections. The more you win, the more you get paid out. Check out Sleeper. No brainer. All right, game number 3, we have Atlanta taking on Chicago. Atlanta at home. They're laying 2.5 in most places now, so even that graphic's outdated that we have. Total sitting right around 239. I've seen a couple 238s out there, so depending on what side you're on, keep an eye out for that. Atlanta coming off of a loss last night, so they are in a back-to-back here against Detroit. They lose straight up as, what are they, 2? I think they were dogs, so they ended up covering, actually. It was like 2-point dogs, and they lost by 122 to 121. Chicago coming off of 4 straight losses. It's been kind of a gauntlet, but at the same time, not. Like, Brooklyn may be better than we think. They lost to Brooklyn. They were dogs in that one. 7.5-point favorites to Utah. They lose that one outright by like 9 points or something like that. Dallas is the big loss here, but Dallas is a good team. In Minnesota, they lose and get stomped, and Minnesota's a good team. So, like I said, kind of a gauntlet, but some games in there, Utah and Brooklyn, that you might have been able to or should have competed in. In this spot, I think I'm going to be looking at Atlanta. Reason being, this is a Chicago team that just cannot stop a nosebleed in the paint, and Atlanta likes to shoot in the restricted area as well as in the paint. In fact, if we just jump into the dashboard, it'll be easier for me to show you than tell you here. So a couple things. First off, down here in points in the paint allowed, this year, Chicago allowing the most amount of points in the entire league, right? And then we look at the restricted area and the in the paint. Now, Atlanta does like to shoot at both. Okay, Chicago's very good at stopping that in the paint, but in the restricted area, that's why this is so bad. 73% in terms of field goal percentage against. So I don't necessarily sit there and say that, Chicago's going to have the best of times or the easiest of times stopping guys like Capella or Jalen Johnson or Trae Young, who also likes to get into the paint. And like I mentioned, Atlanta likes to shoot from the restricted area and in the paint because of those names I just mentioned, especially Johnson and Trae Young in general. Those two guys that shoot the most, that's where they shoot from plenty. You know what I mean? So I'll take Atlanta in this spot. The one thing I will say about that total, 239, even if it's at 238, like, this is the number 1 pace team in Chicago and the number 3 pace team in Atlanta. It seems kind of silly to look at an under here. It is a super high number, but I don't think we can take an under given the fact that, well, neither one of these teams are all that great defensively and they play fast. So yeah, though I think there's going to be, some spots and some kind of tired moments for Atlanta, or Chicago's offense is going to look all that great, right? I still can't lean towards the under, so I'll lean towards the over, but I doubt we end up rolling with it. Now, couple player props that I do like in this spot. I kind of already mentioned their name, but Clint Capella here over 10.5 points seems like a decent look to me. On the season, he's only hit it in 4 of his 10 games, but if we take a peek at head-to-head, he's hit it in 3 straight games against Chicago. 13 last year. 15 last year, and then he also had 22 last year. So obviously not the worst spot there. If you look at how many times he shot, 9, 9, and 15, got to the line plenty as well. That'd be nice to see today. But overall this season, he's shooting, a decent amount here, 6.3 attempts. If he can, complete, I guess, 5 of those we're already talking about at 10 points, right? So I do like the idea of him, as well as Jalen Johnson. Now, I saw this at 20.5, can no longer get it, but if you can, I think that might be a better move, because look at how close he's come to that line a few different times, right? Like, this one more bucket could make a big deal. So I like Johnson's over in points as well, but that Clint Capella one I'm eyeing for sure. Maybe there's some opportunity for like a same game parlay or something where we knock both of their points lines down, but then we throw them in the slip together. That could be a move. So keep an eye on the final plays for that, because this is definitely something that's intriguing me in terms of this game. But I like Atlanta as well, because I do think that they're going to get some easy buckets that Chicago doesn't necessarily have on their side, because Atlanta's been pretty damn good at stopping points in the paint. And like I mentioned, in fact, I'll just show you again, points in the paint down here. When we talked about that 30th, Atlanta's 4th best so far this year in terms of preventing points in the paint. So obviously a little feather in their cap for this one. All right, last game on the slate, we got the Clips taking on Toronto here. So Clippers coming off of a win yesterday against Sacramento. Again, we were that close to pulling the trigger on it. We didn't, so can't take credit for that. It was just a lean. Toronto coming off of a game in which they got beat by Sacramento a few days ago. So I always think it's weird, maybe it's just something I noticed, but when two teams played the same team last, something to look into there. Overall, I do think the Clippers are the better team, and this is a better spot for them. And that line is jumping down very quickly. It's at 5.5 now, so not exactly sure why that is. Maybe Quickly got upgraded, because the Raptors have tons of injuries here. Obviously, if Quickly comes back, that's going to be a massive upgrade, and piece for them. So maybe that's the reason the line is moving. Overall, if that line goes down, I like it even more, because I do think the Clippers are better than this team. They're better defensively, and I think that there's a few spots on the floor that they should kind of win as well. Like, I think that they're going to be the way better perimeter team, but also Toronto is very bad defensively in the paint, and you have guys that like to get into the paint, like Zubac, who's having a good year. We'll talk about him for a player prop in just a second. So give me the Clippers here, minus the 5.5. I know it says 7.5, but 5.5s are out there as of right now. That total at 228 seems a little bit too high. I wouldn't be surprised if that thing moves down throughout the day, so I'll lean towards the under here as well. The Clippers, if they're going to dominate this game, especially on a back-to-back, I think that they're going to come in, play very, very slow, and, a lot of shots in the paint. And even when they do take the threes, it's not like Toronto's going to be all that great at preventing it, but they've been better at preventing threes. So I do think that the Clippers are going to prefer to score in the paint overall, which makes it harder to get to a 230 number or something like that, right? From a player prop perspective, we got two guys that I like their points. So let's go ahead and dive in here. Zubac over 16.5 points. There's a plus number next to it, plus 100 over on MGM. That's kind of why I like it. You can see centers against Toronto, 30th in terms of points allowed, so literally the worst, allowing 24.8. I like this spot for him. He should have enough field goal attempts. You could see he's been kind of cooling off here, but this should be a spot in which they're able to dump it down into him, and he has some success. And again, I like it a lot because it is at that plus 100 marker. Same thing for Grady Dick over here. 16.5 points for plus 100. The Clippers good defensively, like I mentioned, but they do struggle at the mid-range, and big old Grady Dick over here, he likes to shoot from the mid-range and leads the team in terms of field goal attempts per game for the Raptors from the mid-range. So I like him to be able to potentially drain a few in here. I know it looks like he's up and down, but overall he's hit it in 5 of his 9 games on the road here, 3 of his 4 games, and then this is the most recent one in which he didn't hit it, right? But if you look at his field goal attempts, second fewest field goal attempts the entire season, and he shot terribly, only 30%. So obviously we want him to shoot more in like the 45-ish range, which is his average, and I think we're looking good there. And he's going to take a bunch of threes. I just like him because of the mid-range, but he's going to take, 6, 7 type of, amount of threes. So if he hits a couple of those, we're well on our way to 16.5. Again, it is a plus money play as well, both the Zubac and the Grady Dick spot there. So I don't mind it whatsoever. But guys, that is going to wrap it up for today's show. If you guys did enjoy, you know what to do. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Go ahead and comment 16 because you made it 16 minutes in. New channel, we got the 100K subs behind us, the balloons and whatnot. New channel right now. I'm keeping you guys posted. We did post a video, kind of an update on the main channel. That is on the Guy Boston Sports site. So if you're looking for the final plays today, click around. You'll find that post as well. It was a video just on there, kind of updating you guys as to where we stand. But overall, I think we'll be okay come the long term, right? Right now it stinks, but the fact that you guys are crushing it on this channel in terms of engaging and whatnot means so much, because I know it stinks to have that 100K and then all of a sudden be like, well, we can't use it or we can't touch it. But the fact that we're coming over here and we already have nearly 5,000, in fact, by the time this gets posted, may have 5,000 subscribers. Thank you guys so much. But that's all I have for you. I'll catch you guys in the next one, right? Peace out.